Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. Two questions will be on the ballot next Tuesday, asking voters to make changes to the state constitution.
One would ban private grant money from being used to administer an election. The other would ban anyone but election officials designated by law from performing tasks tied to voting in primaries, elections, or referendums. Jason Zimmerman breaks down the impact by speaking with people on both sides.
Both questions on the ballot next Tuesday were put there by the Republican-controlled legislature without the support of a single Democrat. And they're tied to the 2020 election, in which private grants were used by some municipalities, including Green Bay, which came from Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg.
He came into Wisconsin, targeted liberal communities to push out the vote. Milwaukee, Madison, Green Bay, Racine, Kenosha. He didn't do that anyplace else.
That's Republican Senate candidate Eric Hovde in a new video urging supporters to say yes. The so-called Zuckerbucks were supposed to help municipalities across the country run a presidential election in the middle of a pandemic. Wisconsin's share came to about $10 million.
A lot of localities didn't have the budget to put up plexiglass screens, to get PPE like masks and gloves for election officials.
Several nonprofit organizations also opposed the amendments, telling us that the private funding benefited election clerks whose offices are typically underfunded.
This is money that is used in a nonpartisan basis. It's not used to help Republicans or Democrats. It's used really to help election clerks and to help voters so that the process goes smoothly.
Still, Republicans argue the money caused people to question the integrity of the election's outcome.
The constitutional amendments will stop the Zuckerbucks from happening again. And as a result, we're going to have better confidence in our elections, and people will be more willing to accept the results. And when people are more willing to accept the results, we can kind of form a community better, and we can get through our problems better.
Several courts in the Wisconsin Elections Commission all rejecting complaints regarding the legality of accepting private grant money, something voters will now weigh in on as well. Reporting in the Fox Valley, Jason Zimmerman, Action 2 News.